Hi, this is Anke. Thank you for inviting me to the Startup Talk. I'm super humble, super honored to be here. I'm looking forward to answering all the questions from the audience.
Hi, and welcome to this Novelty Incubate Startup Talk. Today's talk is held with Anke Huiskes, founding partner of Aletta Angels, with the mission to create a better balance between investments in female-led and male-led startups. Also, a special word of welcome to our Novelty Advanced community and the members of Incubase. My name is Tim de Wolf, and I am part of the Startup Acceleration team at Novelty. We organize these talks to give you access to some of the greatest startup founders, so you can ask all your startup-related questions. We obviously cannot organize these talks alone, so therefore a big thank you to Joe Laufer of the Alumni Office for helping us with these guests. But before I give it over to our bootcamp buffalo, Peter Langela, the guide of this evening. If you are interested in innovative entrepreneurship, but have no idea how to start or get the right support, I challenge you to go to novelty.com/start, where we can help you by, for instance, our Start Bootcamp or our Start program. At the end of this talk, I'll come back to wrap things up and to announce the next talks. But for now, the floor is all yours, Peter. Take it away.
Why start Aletta Angels?
So a lot of the male VCs couldn't relate to the problems that these women were solving for, like in beauty, self-care, women's health. And that's when I dove into it, like what is the reasons, what are the numbers? So I joined this VC firm, Portfolio, as an LP. And for those who don't know what an LP is, it's basically people who invest money in a certain fund, and then the fund is deciding where to put the money in. And that fund that I invested in, Portfolio, only invested in female founders. And just because I want to see more of the solutions that women are bringing to this world, but if you cannot get the funding, especially early stage, these solutions will never see the day of light. And they're needed. There are so many unmet needs that aren't there yet, like the wearable breast pump that I innovated in. So I think for me, it's really about like investing in the change that I want to see in this world, getting more female eye when products and services are being developed, more women hire like in these companies that are making all these changes, to just balance it out, because the world is still like 50-50, but the VC world is like 95%. And I think also in female founders, there are only a few of them. So if we can that spinning wheel turning on, that's what I get really excited about.
Okay, that's nice, because it's a men's world. And I wonder if you do this because you think there should be more female entrepreneurs, or are female entrepreneurs better in entrepreneurship?
I don't think there are, I believe in like diverse teams. So I don't think like females in general are better entrepreneurs than male. I think it's very like based on the individual, but especially on the dynamics of the team. And right now what you see is that most of the companies, they're like all male. And I think I want to change that balance. I do believe that adding women in the first like 5 to 10 people in your company from the beginning will help you create that balance and also improve the business outcomes, because that has been proven that if you have more diverse teams, you will have better business outcomes.
Yeah, that's nice, because I show you this sheet from my business bootcamp yesterday, and it says that it's small to read, but gender diverse teams make better business decisions 73% of the time, and all male teams, only men, underperform by 15%. So it's important to have some women in your team.
Mm-hmm.
What do they do better? What do they bring to the table?
I think in general, maybe you also see that now in a political climate, like how the different countries went about like COVID. I think like men and women, we all have our own specialties, and like of course it's not as black-white, but in general, I think women are good with their EQ, like intuition. They're good listeners. They're good like trying to find common ground. And I think bringing that to the table, more the soft skills in building the company to make it like more sustainable, maybe not always going for the most aggressive route, and like not taking into account like bring your team with you or making more long-term goals. I think that's a good skill that often stands out for women. But in general, like there are of course also like very soft guys who bring that to the table. I think my plea is not to only have female founded teams or only female led investment committees. I'm all about like finding the right mix. And in some of the cases, especially I think in healthcare, maybe you see a mix between like 70% women, 30% men, whereas in like very heavy IT companies, it's the other way around. But sometimes I take like a strong point of view because yeah, it's like, I think it's like 97% is still male. So somebody needs to like help shake up this system, and I'm happy to step forward and be that person.
Nice, nice. You started you did your master study in Twente, University of Twente, in 2007, around that time. How do you look back on the University of Twente?
Yeah, amazing. I get goosebumps of thinking about the University of Twente. The reason, so I'm also like a Tukker. Like I am from the region. I grew up in a very small town close to Enschede.
Well, who is it called? What?
Twente.
Okay, I'm from Boston.
Yeah, oh yeah. So it's and I think what made the University of Twente so special to me is that there was such a wide variety of people and things that you could do. So I was part of the student union board, so I've seen all those like 100 different societies that did their thing, from like, we had like underwater hockey to like board games to like the student corporations. And I think it was special that no matter who you were, there was a little crew that you could like belong to. And I think that whole sense of belonging is great, I think, especially if you want to be in an environment where you feel safe, but also feel challenged and have all the opportunities to explore. So I've done a lot of things next to my study. That's why my study was only 4 years, and during that time you could like have a little bit extra. So I did indeed like 7 years to finish my studies, but it was because I had all these different opportunities to, I think, like develop myself. Because reading from a book and going through these courses is one thing, but I think I learned so much more by being part of ISAC or like this year of student union, where it was such a jump in my personal development. And of course, I only went to the University of Twente, but talking to people who've been to other universities, I'm glad that I picked Twente because of all the reasons that I just mentioned.
Yeah, nice. In the time you grew up in Tilburg, apparently, going to the University of Twente, what were your dreams that days? Because you're now a well-known investor in the Valley in the United States, far away. What were your dreams those days?
So the funny thing is, I think during my high school, the VWO, one of the assignments was that you had to start your own company in communication. And I thought that was the coolest assignment of the, like, I think last year of finishing the VWO. And when I started looking for my next, like what to do in university, and I looked at Groningen, for example, but then I found this leaflet of the University of Twente of like communication, where one of the chapters was you will learn how to build your own company, and this was like communication company. And I think I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I also grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. My dad was an entrepreneur. My uncles, my brother had a couple of companies during his study, like small ones. But I think I've got a very high risk profile. So I always wanted to have my own company. And then during my like my time in university, after I finished like doing the student union board and I got that network, I was like, it's now or never. If I still want to start a company, I should do it now. So that caused another like 18 months of delay finishing my studies. But I did I was able to set up my own company, like communication, by basically leasing my fellow students to small business companies in Twente.
Okay.
And I think it confirmed to me that I love that game of like starting a company, growing a company, finding solutions, and involving my community to do it with me. I don't think I ever dreamt of like going to the United States or now like living in Maui. I think that wasn't part of my dream. I think with all the small steps that you're making, you end in a certain path. And I'm sure, I think like Steve Jobs says, if you look back, you can see you connected the dots. But none of this was really planned, I would say, except for like having my own company. And I think that was the start of landing my first job, like seeing that I have these skills and other skills I don't have, but that like on certain points I love doing it and I can do it. So I think.
But your first job after university was at Procter Gamble, so it's a big enterprise, but really an entrepreneurial environment. How was it there? What did you do? And what were your takeaways there?
Yeah, so after I finished my studies, I did all these business courses like ING, Unilever, KLM, to see of all these big companies, like who are the people who work there, what do they do on a daily basis. And when I did the business course of Procter Gamble, it was so much fun. It was like 3 days. I learned a ton, but there was also so much fun. So I was like, if people like these like work at this company, probably this would be a good fit for me. And what I like about it, it's like built from within. So you can only start there. You cannot join later. You can first start another company and then join in after 5 years. So it felt like FOMO, like it's now or never. And I started on the commercial side. So I knew from my own company that I liked like selling and building a business. So I started in business development, where you basically get a couple of supermarkets, like Jumbo, and a whole portfolio of all the products. And it's your P&L. So you start with a P&L of 4 million around, like, so it's a big bucket. And then, you're being thrown in the deep, if that's an expression, and you do it. So I thought this is for me the best way to get the steepest learning curve. And I have to say, so I met my husband, Remco, on the university. So he was also part of this talk. And Remco was born in the US. And he always told me, like, if I ever have this opportunity to go back to California, I would do it. So then when I had, I think, 2 offers from Unilever and P&G, because they're like similar, I was like, if I now join P&G, it is an American company. So if like this dream of fame will ever come to reality, I've got a ticket to go to the US. I ended up not using P&G to make the move to the US, but I think that was also one of the things that I thought about by making the final decision.
Okay, nice. And what I noticed also that you work for Pebble, and Pebble was one of the first smartwatches that I bought myself. Yeah, I had it. Was very proud on it. You brought it to the Netherlands, right? Or
to Europe, yeah. So that's a funny story. So how I ended up, I was working at another company. We were at the beach, and then there was another Dutch guy, Martijn. He studied at the University of Delft. We got in touch. He started talking. He said, like, I work for this small company, Kickstarter, Pebble. And then he learned what I was doing back in the Netherlands. He was like, oh, people from P&G, you guys know how to do marketing. You know how to sell. Maybe you should talk to my boss, because we could use people like you. So I went in, I met the team, and I was like, this is amazing. You have this like one big hall with all these guys wearing Pebble t-shirts, Pebble hats, Pebble watches. They were so like brand lovers. And then they were like, we don't have a job opening, but you probably can help us. There weren't a lot of women, and definitely no women who knew about the marketing side of things. So I joined them without a job description. And then they were like, okay, you're from the Netherlands. Oh, you probably know how like Europe works. So go out and explore. And that's how I landed a job. And I'm ended up maybe getting you a watch on your
Yeah, you did a good job because I bought it, and it's not that hard because I'm a real gadget freak. But that was the first decent smartwatch on the market. So
yeah.
it was nice to see that you were involved in that. Then later you came into the world of capital, of investment. That was after the Pebble time, right?
Yeah, so while I was at Pebble, one of my friends, she was an analyst at this group of health tech angel investors. So basically it was a group of 70 people. Most of them were male. Most of them were like in the 70s. And they needed people who were taking notes during the sessions. And she was like, this is so fun. You will learn a ton. So I was like, okay, let's do this. So it was every 2 weeks where we drive up to Palo Alto in the evening, and there was between like from 6 to 9, they had 5 startups coming in, and I will be the note taker and helping these startups like manage their time, like telling how many minutes they still had left. And while I was doing that, we realized, I think, how much knowledge and insights we brought to the table as the younger people, and especially also from the female perspective, because still, like I said, like 50% is still females, but most of the guys who were presenting, or most of the people who were presenting were men. All the people in the room were men, and then they were talking about like women's health, like menopause, for example. And then or like new parents, and then also was like, also Anke, what do you think? So while I was doing that, I got like, it's not like promoted because it was like all like voluntary stuff, but instead of like just sitting in a room in the corner taking notes, all of a sudden I had a seat at the table. All of a sudden during these pitches, people were looking at me like, what do you think? And then I could join the due diligence teams. So if the group decided like, this is an interesting company, interesting team, let's dive deeper. And then I will be part of that due diligence team. And that's how I learned. If you do that for 2 years and you're like the shadow note taker, or like the second pair of eyes of all these people, I got to see the questions that they asked while the team was still in the room, and when the team left, what the discussion was about, like red flags, things that they love, not. So that's how I learned more about the angel investing. And then, as I said, while I was at Willow, I joined Portfolio because that's, I think, how I got my sweet spot of like women's health and female founders. And that's that knowledge or experience and the passion I used to then ended up like founding my own angel collective like 18 months ago.
Okay. I found some articles in mainly Dutch entrepreneurial papers and with some statements. So let's check out some statements. In Silicon Valley, you cannot be too shy. And that's typical Twente, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Why is that? Why can you not be too shy?
I think you have to, like are humble. I think it's like Americans in general are amazing to present themselves. That's what they learn in kindergarten. So I think they in general do a better job when they're on stage, like to just sell themselves. So you have to put yourself out there, I think. And I realized it in the beginning when we just entered, or when we just came into San Francisco. I went to all these meetups because I didn't know any people. I didn't have a job. And I was talking to these people and like, oh, I'm the CEO of this company. Oh, I'm the CFO of that company. And I was like, wow, all these people, like, who am I? But then I checked out their LinkedIn profiles and they had this like boring job at Ascend, like full time. And then in the evening hours, maybe they did like wrote 2 lines of code. But I think because I learned like, don't lie, but definitely don't shy away from dreaming big. And I think this term of go big or go home. And I think it's these people with bold ideas who are not shying away from letting the world know how great they are, how great their ideas are. These are the ones who are being put in the spotlight. And also from investors' point of view, these are the people that you are attracted to in the beginning, I think, because they are like, they have a ton of self-confidence. And I think that's what you need if you want to build this company and guide them through all the highs and lows and like attract the right people and be that leader. Of course, you want to be like, I think like authentic and like transparent and all these soft skills that we talked about. But you have to sell yourself because nobody else is going to do it for you unless you get to a point.
Yeah, because there's not typically something from Twente, and we have someone in the audience, Allard van der Veen, and he has a question about it. So Allard, maybe you can unmute yourself and ask a question yourself.
Yeah, one minute. You're coming from Tubbergen.
Yeah.
And what kind of things in Twente can you still use in your daily business in the US? Is there something that you still use from the time you were in Holland, in Twente especially?
In terms of skill set or experience?
Yeah, skills, personal things.
I think like the first, like everything, I would say, because the way, like I dedicate everything to my parents, I think, and to my family, because they raised me no bullshit, with lots of self-confidence, nuchter, I don't know what word it is in English.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's what you need in order to have like a very like stable root. And from there, I think I was able to take these risks. Because maybe I'm of course a little bit, but in general, I'm not really afraid to fail. Because then I think like I learn. And I think it's because of the way I was raised in Twente, where it's like, doe maar normaal, dan ben je gek genoeg. And the down to earthness of my parents, but also like go out and try. And if it's not working, come back. You can always, and they also live in a farm. Mm-hmm. So she's always like, try, and if it doesn't work out, like you can always live with us. And I think because of that, I have a very high risk tolerance. And this whole thing, like, what would you do if you're not afraid? That's always going through my back of my mind. And I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Just do it and don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Nice. Thanks for the question, Allard. I think it was the right moment to ask it. If you go back to another article in Management and Sprout in this case, you say one of the most important things a startup should have is speed. Speed of execution, I guess.
Yeah.
Why is that important?
Yeah, so I think I learned this after like 5 years at P&G. When you learn if you want to do like a disruptive thing, you have to like sign a one pager. That one pager needs to be approved by your manager, then to that manager, because it's new and they haven't done it before, and then it's scary. So doing all these things just take a hell of time. So then maybe you're like 4 to 6 months later, and then maybe you can implement a small tweak. Whereas with a startup, maybe they don't have the resources, not enough people, and not enough money, but they have all the time of the world. And I think the thinking of startups, like just try it out, just throw an ad out there on Facebook or this campaign or Google, let's do this A/B thing and see what people click on. I think that thinking and that opportunity to make a decision really fast and execute with very small budgets is something that the startups can use to better find their product market fit, or maybe even like throw something out there without people even be able to buy it. And I think in this article, I use that example of Pebble, where basically the founder of Pebble, Eric, he had this idea of this smart watch on your wrist. I think he built a prototype, but that's it. And then he threw it on Kickstarter to see, like, do people actually like this? And if they like it, what they like best? And he was aiming to raise $100,000. And then he ended up like $10 million. So many people said, like, I love this. And then he was like, oh shit, now I have to build these things. So it was just, I think, a drawing on paper and something he hacked with a BlackBerry on his wrist. He strapped it on his wrist. And then he had to like go to the factory and to China and like find people who can help build this with him. And it was only 6 guys. And I think, for example, at P&G, like in big companies, if you want to do like a new flavor, like you have to do research, and I don't know, it's the risk tolerance is probably not as high. So I would double down on testing things out very early and make a change and get to your product market fit as soon as possible, and then scale.
Nice. Well, in the same article, you say one of the biggest mistakes an entrepreneur can make is not think big, not have the guts to think big. That's what you say.
Yeah, and I think maybe this is again like with the risk profile, but it's so hard, I think, to build a company. And if you build a company and you like touch like 1,000 people or 100,000 people, like a lot of the hard work is the same. Then maybe you have to produce like 100 times more watches. But in the end, like that whole journey of getting to like the right design, the right branding, the right distribution is all the same. So why then waste your time to only sell it in the Netherlands? Then like figure out what you need to do to localize it maybe to the other countries. And I would say like go as soon as you can to the US, depending on what the product is. But you've got like 300 million people, 330 million people in the US versus like 17 in the Netherlands. So yeah, if you love your product and you think the world needs this product, why then only give the people in the Netherlands the opportunity to buy it? Why not like open up to the whole world?
Think big, that's nice. Rens is also asking a question in the chat. Rens, can you ask it yourself? If you unmute, yes.
Yeah, my question was, you had a very strong drive to start your own company since middle school, as you already told, you had that course. Should others that don't have that drive also be taught about entrepreneurship?
I definitely don't think that everybody should try like a startup. It's like it's so hard. So if you don't have that drive, like then don't do it. I do believe that thinking entrepreneurial, thinking how you can use your time and your money as productive as possible, and being creative, see where else you can sell your product or optimize your product. I think a lot of the thinking makes you a better employee, I would say, and maybe challenge the status quo and like ask these questions that other people maybe not have thought of, because you're thinking more entrepreneurial, which will then benefit any company, I would say. So yeah, I think it's a plus. It's definitely, I don't see how that could negatively influence someone.
Nice, thanks. Thanks, Rens. And we not only have men asking questions, also women. So Tamara, what is your question to Anke?
Yes, hello Anke. My question is, do you feel like there's more interest in and support for female-led startup these days? Or do you feel that it's getting more difficult? So I'm curious how that is in the USA.
So in general, I think it's getting easier because there are more programs who are helping female founders to find the right idea and the product market fit. There are these accelerators that you go through like for 8 weeks where they guide you, because most of the female founders are first-time founders. So for them, it's harder for any first-time founder, but because most of them are female, it's harder to like, oh, so what's the next step? Okay, so how do I build an MVP? So how do I make sure that I find my right customers? And I think it got easier because there are more programs like that. There are more VCs now investing solely in female founders. So there's also more money to spend. And there are more female founders now who are making success. And I think that for a role model, like when I saw Katrina Lake from Stitch Fix, who brought her company public, and she was standing there with the baby in the arm, and I was like, this is like different. So this is cool. If she can do it, I can do it. So I think it's like being that role model, like if you can see, you can be it. So all of that I think is definitely positive. Mm-hmm. But then if you look at the numbers, and PitchBook just published the new numbers, and like 2020, isn't like the investments in female founders are going down. Mm-hmm. So it's like a mixed bag, I feel.
All right. Okay. I hope it will even be better and better. But
it will be better and better.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your all your support and the work you are doing there.
Okay, thanks, Tamara. And Hai-Yoon, she has a question also in this direction. So what is your question, Hai?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I will just, so I was attending some conference regarding some like women in computer science event, and then there one female led startup, like female founder, was talking about how she started her startup. But then she later said it was really hard to get some funds, as just alone herself by male-led ventures. So she had to be with other male members to get a fund. So, for example, let male co-founder to the pitch instead of herself. So I heard that kind of difficulties from her. I'd like to know, is that like true, or and then if it is or if it's or not, how we can ensure that male-led investors, how can I say, male-led investors, that our business is like worth, without showing that like we are like female or we are male, but just only judge it by business idea. So
Yeah. So thank you for your question. I think it's this can be sometimes the case, and I think this is not like male or like gender related, but I think in general people tend to support people like them faster because they can recognize themselves in the other party, which probably is like less risky because they think alike, and that's for male and for female. But in this situation, because it's like the difference is so huge, it doesn't benefit female founders. So to the point of the person that was presenting at the pitch event, I think, that happens. And I would say sometimes it is, if that is what it takes, like sometimes I think that's what you should do if you want to have that money of that fund, if that's really important to you, and then like show that like the world has to change or something. Like, and I think maybe other people will definitely think different, but I wouldn't like, if that's what it takes to play the game, I will like play the game and then and use that tactics. In general, I do believe like having, in this case, also like it's a mixed team of a female and a male. I think that's strong. But on the other hand, I think the more the VCs are also realizing that they need to create diversity, and not only I think on gender, but on all different things of bringing in people from all walks of life, because diversity of thought is like better business outcomes, as Peter showed, I think, in his slide. And I know in the Netherlands they have this program called Fund Right, where a bunch of the leading VC firms signed a pledge that, I don't know what it was, like 30% of, it was not 30, but like a high percentage of their investments are going to female founders by the end of, let's say, 2025. So I think there's definitely a change going on, and you see with all the VC firms that they're celebrating if they introduce a new partner, female partner in the team. And it's almost, I think nowadays can be hard if you're like a white male dude getting a job. So I almost feel sorry for them. Because things are changing. But then again, if you look at the data still shows that like even now, after all these initiatives, like funding in female founders went down, which is crazy.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. I say yes, but there's a whole list of questions. So I say yes. Hayun, by the way, did a great pitch at the UT Challenge the other day. So well done, and thanks for the question. Joe Laufer also posted a question. Joe, please.
Sure. So diversity is important, but when you have people knocking on your door for investments, what are you looking for? What qualities are you looking for in a team or in a founder? And what is the biggest mistake a team can make when pitching to you?
So what I look for first is like team, and we invest very early, right? So sometimes some may have revenue, sometimes they don't even have revenue. So it's a pen on paper, they did a beta test, they have some data to show like we think there's something here, and then they come to us. So for us, it's like team. Can this team execute? Do they have an unfair advantage that you are the one who's winning in this market because of the experience or your personal story? Are you the one who can attract the best talent? Because in the end, the team is going to do the job, but only also like a new investment fund, because otherwise I'm putting in the money, but then if you're not successful raising your next round, then like that will be it. And then the second thing is like, what is the product? Is it unique? Is it defensible? Will there be a network effect? What if somebody else comes in with a bigger budget? Can they just destroy you? So what is so unique about your product? And then the market. So if it's like a very tiny market, like then it's amazing, but probably it's not VC worthy, because in the end, VCs are looking for like 100x. That's like the dream, of course. We won't get there, but it might be, and that's what I see a lot, that it's a great team with a great product, but it's not VC fundable business. And then I tell them, like, try to find other ways to get revenue, either through like grants or like a loan from the bank, whatever. Yeah, so these are the things that, and then a technology, which is basically also like, is there IP, or, and what is the biggest mistake, what they can make? In the end, like, I'm very data driven, so I look at the data. So they have to show some sort of data, and in the end, it's always like a gut feel. If you've seen all the data, then it's like, do I believe they can make it, they can build this, they can grow this? If they're like very arrogant and they don't take feedback seriously, or they make like, I think, yeah, personal fit is probably the reason why I then wouldn't invest if all the other checkboxes are green, let's say.
Okay, nice. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Joe, for the nice question. And Anouk has also an interesting question, asking for tips. What's the question, Anouk?
Yeah, so you said that you're quite entrepreneurial, and after you finish your studies, you wanted to have work on your own company, but you also decided to work for another company. So what are your tips when you're quite entrepreneurial and you would like to start your company one day, but you just haven't found your idea yet? What to look for in a job or in a company where you could work at? So starting just after finishing your master's.
I think if like the company that I had, Salt and Pepper, was like very local. I had like local students doing local research projects at local companies in Twente, and I think I realized I wanted to do something bigger and that I could scale. So Salt and Pepper was not the thing that I should have, that I could bring to the next level, not in the way that I wanted to. So if you already have a company that is going like crazy, that you can scale, that's ready like for expansion, then I think this is the best time to do the company, because you don't have a mortgage. You probably don't have like kids that you have to take care of. I think the longer that you're having your corporate job and like being like cozy with your nice salary and maybe your lease car, you have to give up more to then like go and start a company, because you won't get any salary for a long period of time. So in that sense, I think it's a great time to start a company right out of college. And I don't know, during that time, the university had like this loan where you can get a loan with no interest. So it's like that support from the university, and like even like office space and Novelty is doing all these things. So I would say go for it. Otherwise, like the reason why I love P&G is that, and I learned a ton, and I think, of course I'm biased because I work there, but what I learned is running a P&L, because I did communication, and I think we had some sort of Excel, but that was it. And so now all of a sudden I learned like to work with numbers, to learn how to read a balance sheet, how to grow a company, to do analytics, to get a team, to have all these conversations like conflict management, decision making, all these things that otherwise I think as an entrepreneur you're growing into once you hire your first employee. And I had that pretty soon in my career. I think after 5 years I was leading the personal beauty care business for P&G, and I had 12 people in my team. There was like tons of conflict. Business went down the drain. I had to make like big interventions, but I could do it all in the safe space of like somebody else's company. As an employee, and I still believe all the things that I learned at P&G I could reuse when I was at Pebble, because I was there, and then they said like, okay, so grow this business. And then I knew like, oh, this is how I set up like distribution contracts. This is how I'm making a forecast. This is what the PR message should be. This is how I'm going to do the branding, the displays. This is how I'm going to do my cash management because I need to get my inventory from one place to the other. So I think all these things I probably wouldn't have known if I hadn't had the job at P&G for so many years. But then on the other hand, you will learn it. It's more like learn by doing. So I think it depends case by case. But if you feel you're almost ready, then do it. Like you will never be completely ready. And I think and what is the worst that you can get? Like maybe you fail after a year, you see that it didn't work out. You can always get a normal job. I think that's easier than the other way around.
That's often the case. You never know upfront. So on some moment you need to dive into it. What you told in the podcast of Golden Egg Check, there was an interview as well. Since you have business experience in both Europe and in the United States, Silicon Valley is a candy store.
Yeah.
What are the candies? What do we miss here?
So maybe there are some similarities how I perceived University of Twente, where you've got so many opportunities to dive into and do the things that you want to do. And that's how I felt about Silicon Valley. And then I think that very different with Silicon Valley is that a lot of the people do have as big as a drive as you have, or maybe even bigger. So, and I truly believe that the people that you surround yourself with, like they always say like 6, are the people that you would go to ask for advice, or if you think about something like, oh, what would she say? And I think the people who come to Silicon Valley to live their dream or to build the next, Tesla, I think that's pretty special about Silicon Valley. So it's the ecosystem. So that's one thing. And then 2, because all these people are there and they want to build the communities, or they want to pitch their company, or they have this happy hour. Like especially in the beginning, because the first 4 months I did not have a job, I went to all these meetups like 4 or 5 times a week, like sometimes even like 2 in the same evening, where I would go on my bike, go there, you get your name tag, and it was either about like food tech or like hardware or whatever. And you meet these people and you get this like serendipity and these random conversations that will bring you to maybe your next big thing, or to that person who's then inspiring and becoming like your next investor. And I think that ecosystem where you have all these events and all these smart people who are also very driven and wanting to give back, because they also walked in that room just like I was with my name tag, and then there were people who helped them. I think this whole idea of giving back is very much there. So now that we are in Maui, like now this is like a completely different lifestyle, and like San Francisco shut down anyway because of COVID. But I do miss that ecosystem and the vibrant life of and having these conversations about what about this, or did you meet with that person?
Okay, nice. We had recently the UT challenge. I don't know if it was already in your time. I don't think so. A startup challenge with, and some of the teams are here tonight in the audience, including good female startups. What lessons can they learn from you, from the Silicon Valley, to apply in Twente? What is your top 2 or 3 to take away from Silicon Valley into Twente?
What they can learn while building their companies?
Yeah.
I think if you can figure out if there is something, you have to figure out it as soon as possible. So try to find your product market fit as soon as possible, because otherwise you might think like this is the best idea in the world, and then you're working on it for 2-3 years, and then it won't have seen the day of light, or you won't get further than just these few 1,000 people. And then of course you learned a lot, but you could have get these answers pretty like sooner probably. So I would like double down on trying to find like what's the product market fit, who is my customer, do these interviews so you know there's something there. I think like Y Combinator is saying like it's better to have 100 fans than like 1,000 customers. And this is also what we did at Willow, where we stayed in beta for a long time because we wanted to learn, and it was a wearable breast pump, like who are these moms, why did they buy this, how are they using it, what are the barriers, what is she expecting from us, what should the customer journey be. So we've been in beta for a long time, so we knew exactly who she was and why she bought it, but also to optimize or spend on marketing, because otherwise you're spending that much money to like figure out like who is that person who's going to buy it. And then we went into public, and then people were able to buy our product. So I think that's lesson one: try to find your product market fit as soon as possible. Then two comes back to like think big, yeah, I keep saying like I think like the Netherlands is great. I think as to start out, and maybe some products are better suited for the Netherlands. But as soon as you feel like there's something here, I would say like jump in the plane and go to, not now, but and explore if you can reach that market. And then the third thing, I think the communities are key. So make sure that you're connected with a crew of other people who can lift you up, who you can call when you have a hard day, who have the right network to tap into mentors or like maybe like the first launch customers. Create WhatsApp groups of people either building like in the same vertical or like the same batch. And I don't know, a ton of Slack groups of female founders, female funders. And I think all the information that I get through these channels, like an article that they saw that were like, oh, Anke, this is interesting for you to read, or like a new VC fund that just popped up that is investing in these founders, or like an event I should go to. I think if you then like help, let other people be able to help you, because it's such a lonely job, I think, going through this entrepreneurial journey. So make sure that you've got your crew of people to lift you up and be there for the glass of wine or yeah, a little cry, or the celebration. So that will be my third tip.
Nice, nice. If we implement these 3 tips, and we knock on your door for money, what do we need to deliver? A huge business plan or a super cool pitch? What is the most important thing?
I think if you have not like a business plan, I think right now I see either pitch decks or Notion. This is like a different way how people are working. So it's almost like a working doc where they show like a video how the product works. So definitely not like a 20-page business plan. I think if you can show me like first, like why are you the one who was born to do this, and the little team that you created so far. What is the solution that you're solving for? And is this really an unmet need, or is this just you and your friends who are like running into this problem? So is this really something that a big group of people are seeing as a problem? And then 3, show me your customers. Like, did people already buy this? Do you have reviews, testimonials, to confirm that you did your homework? And then I think like the third thing is like a great plan. So how are you going to build this business? How much money do you need in order to reach which milestones? So I know like how far my money will go. And also I think the companies that I invested in, either I'm like super passionate or like I'm a very active, like hands-on investor, then I will be part of the like the advisory team and help out. Look at the data, do the user interviews, make the connections. Yeah, and I think as an angel, I'm trying to see where I have the unfair advantage. I think to step in and join them as an investor, because my check size is definitely not the biggest. That's where they should go to others. But I can help. So one of the companies that I just invested in is it's a male founder. Because I don't do only female founders, like it's like mission-driven companies. It can be both. He has a very diverse team, and I helped him with his fundraise. So of like the 2.5 million that he raised, I helped him getting the right leads to get to 1.7. Because I believe in him. I think this product should be there. And then like I'm calling the people that I know that I think like this is a great match. And then it's a very technical product, so I can help him with getting the right users who are not so technical to assess his product. And that's, I think, what I really like about what I'm doing, that I can be that person that they can call like, hey, Anke, how should I solve for this?
And also the startups here in the call, you serve also startups in the Netherlands, in Twente, or just in the United States?
No, so I used to just in the United States, but Aletta Angels, we grew the team now with 2 people. One is based, she's Dutch as well. She's based in London. And then there's somebody from Chile. She's based in Barcelona. So we also opened up to Europe. And then I also recently joined this group of Dutch founders and funders. It's called Operator Exchange. It's a group of 26 people. 23 are men, 3 are women, but they either worked at big companies where they sold like a million products, like a Google or an Apple, or they built their own companies and raised $1 million or more. So this is, I think, very smart money to go to, where they help you scaling the business, especially early stage. And then I also work with a new VC fund. It's female-led. It's called Capital T. And I work with them as a venture partner. And they also invest like Europe and the US, but definitely also in the Netherlands. So no, like I try to do as much I can to help the Dutch ecosystem.
Okay, but good to hear that we have opportunities here. There are some questions still there, but time is running out. But Tamara has a nice personal question. Tamara.
Yes, thank you. Of course, you work very hard, and I think you have pretty impressive and busy jobs, but I think it's also very important to relax and recharge sometimes. And since you live in Hawaii, I can imagine that it might be a little bit different there from Twente or Enschede. So how do you like recharge over there? What do you do? Do you go snorkeling, or I'm curious.
Yeah. So I don't work that hard, I would say. Like Americans always say, like I work like my ass off, and I'm like, okay, that's like they pretend to work hard. I think I work like normal hours for sure. We have 2 young kids, so we do have help, so we can do what we do. Our days are like we go to bed by 8, and then we wake up between 4 and 5 to have these meetings, and then at 2 we stop. And I'm learning how to kite surf, so I'm taking lessons. My husband is a windsurfer, which is the reason why we ended up here. So as of 2, we go to the beach, we go to the forest, we hang out with the kids. I am like meditation, breath work. I'm working with a startup who is turning that into a business. So I'm testing out products, hardware products to help. So I'm like very balanced. Yeah, I'm all about, and especially now in these crazy times, the self-care is definitely important. And I think especially for founders, and this is also what I want to do for female founders, because in general, we tend to like be more anxious maybe about some things, or are we good enough? So I also want to set up these programs for female founders, like this circle of trust where you can go to and do like meditation maybe together. So yeah, no, I'm definitely living a dream life, I would say right now. It's a conscious decision not to stop working at 2, because there's always work, there's always more deals, there's always more emails that you can respond to, or companies you can fund. But I'm definitely all about like finding good balance.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice question, Tamara, because I think, yeah, having a private life is also important. But I want to finish with a final question by Rens. And that's not about private life, but about product market fit. Rens.
Yeah, hi, Anke, it's me again. So you said there's a really big importance in product market testing, and especially finding the right customer and the appropriate size of customer base. But especially in the medical industry, this can be really long and tedious process due to the long development times. How would you tackle that when the development time is like 10 years?
Yeah, that's a difficult question. I think like for Willow, for example, that was like 3-4 years. So we did a ton of research why women had this problem, and what they hated about it, what they liked about it. So in the beginning, it was like all theory, and we realized, and this was about breast pumps, which might not be too familiar for this group, but it was like women had to like be plugged into a wall. They couldn't move. They had to sit there. It was a lot of noise. It was hurting them, and they felt like a cow. But it's like, it also takes a ton of time to get to a final product. So we asked them, and took them with us in our approach to design a better breast pump. And in the beginning, it was just like it wasn't even looking like a breast pump. It was just like a little cube that we would then have her testing out, and then she would give us feedback. And if she say like, "Oh, I like this form factor. This is the way it feels." So then they were there from the beginning in all these steps of the journey, and they were basically the co-creator of the product that ended up 3 years later rolling off the manufacturing line. But because it takes so long, you need a ton of money, especially because it's hardware and it's like medical, because you need to do like FDA approval, you need to do the clinical trials. So we made sure that yes, there was an unmet need. We tested it with all the user studies, and then the product that we designed was co-created with them. So we knew there's always challenges that we did. There's always challenges, but I think we took away as much risk as possible by going through these directions. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, audience, for all the questions. Very interesting. And of course, Anke, was very nice to get an insight in your journey, your entrepreneurial life, and also your vision. So thank you for that. Also nice to hear that the chickens now and then begging for some food, I guess, on the background.
Yeah.
But really nice. So thank you very much. And I want to go back to Tim for the final words. Thank you.
Yes.
Very welcome.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you also, Anke, for your inspiring story. I personally really liked how you told about your warm feelings for Twente and how you needed to leave your humbleness behind when you went to the US. So thank you.
Very welcome.
And also, Peter, thank you for hosting us again. And for you all at home, this most certainly wasn't the last talk. Joe fixed some great guests for the next weeks. The ones that I can now already announce are for next week, Edwin Vlieg from Moneybird. In 2 weeks, we have, if I pronounce correctly, Thilo Hergarten from the Deutsche Post. And in 2 weeks, we have Victor Jan Leurs from kaas.com. You can find this in novelty.com/events. And this link is now also in the chat. Again, to everyone, a big thank you. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Anke, for everything. And hope to see you again during one of the next startup talks. Bye.